Let's go ahead.
This is a decade of growth and harvest.
I still remember when we first came. It was relatively safe here, so we put up tents here. How time flies. It's already 10 years ago.
I am Wang Xiaoqin from Sichuan County, Lushu, Sichuan. In 2008, when the earthquake happened in Wenchuan, I was working in a school in Chongqing. After knowing about the earthquake in Duzhangyan, we decided to do something for the earthquake-stricken area. So I asked for leave and came to Duzhangyan. When we first arrived, it was all in chaos. Many people lost their homes and were living outside. Duzhangyan was one of the hardest hit areas during the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. A total of 12,000 volunteers from all over the country and builders from Shanghai came and offered help. We thought since we're here, we should do our best to help the disaster-stricken people. So I worked as a volunteer and helped to distribute supplies. I remember once I was assigned to a makeshift residential building. One elderly woman reached out her calloused hands to get the supplies and looked at me with a hearty smile, which instantly reminded me of my grandma. At that time, I promised myself to do my bit to tide people here over the pains and help them restore their peaceful life. It was a time when Shanghai aided the restoration of Duzhangyan, and a corridor was opened for agricultural byproducts from Duzhangyan to be channeled to Shanghai. Volunteers like us were assigned to help with the marketing. That's how I went to Shanghai with them. For fear that the kiwi fruits wouldn't sell, after the Shanghai-Duzhangyan passageway was opened, I often went to Shanghai, sometimes 4 or 5 times a month, to help sell the agricultural products from Duzhangyan. What I packed in my luggage was not clothes, but brochures about the products. Once I couldn't get a seat ticket, so I squeezed up in the aisle for 30-plus hours. I didn't get any rest, nor was I able to. After setting foot in Shanghai, I hurried to the agricultural fair without delay. I can still recall one night occasionally, I got a call telling me over 3,000 boxes of our kiwis were sold the first day on their OCJ platform. I was so excited that I literally had tears welling up in my eyes. I felt my over 2 months of hard work in Shanghai finally paid off. Over a few months, I was in various exhibitions and supermarkets in Shanghai to sell kiwi fruits and other local produce. During that time, I met Mam Shan Kuiying, a Shanghai local. She's been offering great assistance to Duzhangyan. She used to work as a teacher, and then she sold her house to have school buildings constructed for a primary school in Duzhangyan. Later, she helped in the marketing of the kiwi fruits. She also offered a lot of help with my personal life, too. At the time, I was in Shanghai to help sell kiwi fruits. I didn't even have a decent place to sleep. Mom Shen got me a room. She was very caring. At times, she even invited me over to dine at her place. During my stay there, she also connected me with a lot of clients. She offered me real spiritual encouragement. Time spent in Dujiangyan went fast in the blink of an eye. The new term began and the school wanted me back. Volunteers here were also returning to their hometown successively. It's also time for me to make a decision, to leave or to stay. After having lived here for over half a year, I was already deeply attached to the place. Working as a volunteer has exposed me to the local culture, including the Taoist culture, tea culture, and so on, which I find really enjoyable. I was hesitant because it wasn't easy for me to get a formal job at the school. But then I thought since I had begun volunteering here in Dujiangyan, I should stick to it, passing on the volunteering spirit and continuing what I was doing. At the thought of what Mam Shen had done, sacrificing her house, making efforts to market the kiwi fruits and stuff, I decided to follow her steps. With those in mind, I determined to quit my job at the school to stay in Dujiangyan. My parents were like really mad. They called me crazy for giving up my job at the school after all the years of studying and then choosing to stay in Dujiangyan. My parents' objection didn't change my mind. I quit my school job anyway and stayed in Dujiangyan. Without a stable income, life got quite difficult. I rented a flat and started to market the goods by myself. I was often on my bike to the countryside to collect farm produce. Most of the time, I had to carry the goods by myself. I was often too tired to even get up the stairs. While marketing farm produce, I met Zhang Guoyun, a retiree who previously worked for the Dujiangyan Rural Development Bureau. I learned from him about the 4 10,000 MU construction projects of kiwi fruits, bamboo shoots, tea leaves, and 3 wood medicinal materials. It occurred to me that compared with simply selling farm produce, developing the whole agricultural industry could offer higher incomes and more jobs. I told Mr. Zhang the idea of growing tea leaves here, and he agreed with me. The local people were also very supportive. So I spent all my savings plus money borrowed from relatives and friends in the sum of 200 or so grands and rent over 5.3 hectares of barren hills to grow tea trees. Mr. Zhang offered me a lot of advice along the way.
It used to be really difficult to walk on this road. I remember one day it got so muddy that we didn't even know where to put our feet, and neither could our car. But then Miss Wang herself did quite an excellent job. Thanks to her, these days we can now walk on it.
It took us half a year to cultivate the land. I'm especially grateful to Mr. Zhang, who cared for me as his daughter. Once I fainted suddenly, knowing that I had hypoglycemia. He made a lot of efforts to get me medicine. Later, learning that it could be found in Aba Prefecture, he had it bought for me.
In order to keep her here, we should care for her as well as support her. And that's because it's our bounden duty.
I invested all my money to start growing tea leaves, but there wouldn't be any harvest in the first 3 years. I had little income and life became even more difficult. For a long time, I could barely afford to feed myself. Sometimes if I spent money on food, I couldn't afford to take a bus. Every time I felt challenged and helpless, I'd think of the elderly woman's kind eyes. She's so tough and optimistic, regardless of her difficulties. I'd also think of Mam Shen and how she managed to help one after another fruit grower out of poverty despite the risks and losses. I thought to myself, if they could persevere, why can't I? For 2 to 3 years, I still had no revenue from the tea leaves business. Worse still, I needed to scale up my investment. Honestly speaking, the thought of giving up did occur to me. But then on second thought, I felt that if I could hold on a bit longer, I could definitely make it. Over the years, I've been very busy. I could hardly afford any time to be with my family. Once, I took my daughter to the tea plantation, but I was too busy at work to take care of her. She ended up catching a cold. I'm still guilty to her to this day. Just as sugarcane can't be sweet on both ends, work-life balance is hard. Thankfully, I think my daughter's been really understanding and supportive. Once when she was here, she said to me, "Mom, I know why you can't always stay with me. Mom, I know why you can't always stay with me. It's because you've got so many children and work to tend to." Hearing that, tears welled up in my eyes. After my negligence caused her coldness, I thought I should spare more time with her. So I took her out during the Spring Festival and planned to celebrate her birthday. But on her birthday, I got a call from home. My father had an accident on the construction site, and the hospital said he could turn into a vegetable. I rushed back to the hospital in Luzhu. Father! 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 Until now, he's still in a coma. Looking back on the past decade, I have really owed a lot to my family. I still remember that every time he was about to have his birthday, he'd always call me and ask if I'd go back home. I always told him I was all tied up. Then that time on his birthday, he switched his mobile phone off. If he's not waking up, I'll always live with a guilty conscience my whole life. My siblings and I, none of us lives with our parents. We couldn't be there even on my father's birthday. They often say daughters are considerate, but not me. I could get so obsessed with work to the exclusion of all else. During the past decade, I didn't even take one single photo with my father. I really hope he'd wake up again. I'll spend more time with them. I want to take him out on a trip. I've never done that for him. I've never really been there for him at all. During my 10 years in Duzhangyan, I rarely went home. When I was thinking about growing tea leaves in Duzhangyan, my family tried to persuade me to take that business back home. But I didn't follow their advice. If I did, things could have been totally different. My biggest wish now is an early recovery for my father. The tea leaves we grew were ready to be plucked, and the business began to pick up. One day, I saw one of our staff trying to sell kiwi fruits while serving clients tea. I couldn't get it until I knew her story. She's Li Jing from Shanjie's township, Duzhangyan. During the Wenchuan earthquake, her parents' house and livelihood were ruined. She wants to take the chance to market her homegrown kiwi fruits. At that moment, I was thinking to myself, she already has a job, but still, she's got products to sell.
At work, we're comrades. In private, we're friends. This is our house. Previously, it was a detached house. The whole plot belonged to us, from here to that tree over there.
When the earthquake struck in 2008, Li Jing was working in Jiangsu province. When she learned of the earthquake in her hometown, she immediately rushed back to Duzhangyan.
Houses were torn down everywhere. My parents were living in makeshift sheds they put up. Seeing them in front of me, I couldn't help but weep tears.
I learned about her situation. Li Jing's family had over 66 acres of kiwi fruits, but couldn't sell them. I was very supportive of her business and also tried to help her to market them.
After all, we have so many kiwi fruits, so we thought we could cooperate. They help us find the market, and we supply goods. Ever since then, our kiwi fruits sold very well.
The fact that her family survived the disaster was a bliss she cherishes. Then she decided to reunite with her parents so that they can enjoy the company of children and grandchildren. I suppose this is the value of significance of running this tea plantation. That is to help people here make a good living without going far away.
After the earthquake, I felt if I was away and something happened at home, I'd never forgive myself. So I decided to stay at home with my family.
The Tea Valley project has brought substantive benefits to the local economy in Xibei village, as well as the local people, women in particular. Within 10 years, we finally turned the barren hills into a tea plantation. Now we have more than 100 employees like Li Jing. Many local farmers have contributed their land to become shareholders of the tea plantation. We also offer part-time jobs like growing tea, plucking tea leaves, etc. There are work pay and bonus. I feel the goals I set as a volunteer are being fulfilled bit by bit. From the 2008 earthquake till now, I've never forgotten my identity as a volunteer. I've been helping people in Duzhangyan to promote and market their local products. I guess this is what we call staying true to our original aspiration. Hey, Li Chang.
Hello.
I've been all tied up. How about you today?
I'm doing okay. The usual.
Li Chang is a local farmer in Duzhangyan. After the earthquake, he threw himself into the breeding industry. At first, he encountered the same problem as Li Jing and had trouble marketing his products. I helped him with that and gave him advice on packaging and online promotion. Now his business is also picking up.
At the beginning, when there were no selling channels for our products, we had a rather rough time. But then Mrs. Wang gave me some advice and helped me with our marketing.
In addition to helping local people sell agricultural products, I also participated in poverty alleviation, like funding children's education in Daofu County and donating supplies to the local people during the Spring Festival. I also set up the Duzhangyan Female Entrepreneurship Space to drive more women to engage in innovation and entrepreneurship. When holding activities at the tea plantation, we often invite students over to join the public welfare events to inspire them to join public service. For 10 years, I've always held on to my original aspiration as a volunteer, which is to tide local people over the pains of the earthquake and to help them regain confidence in life. 10 years have passed since the Duzhangyan earthquake. A lot has changed ever since. Thanks to the help and support of all quarters of the society, the city Duzhangyan has taken on a new look. The exhibition hall shows photos from the earthquake, including the stricken areas, relief work, and post-earthquake restoration. The exhibition hall shows photos from the earthquake, including the stricken areas, relief work, and post-earthquake restoration. This is Shangwa's township stricken by the earthquake. This area where our tea plantation was built was reduced to ruins. I remember this one. It was taken when President Xi visited the locals in a residential settlement in Dujiangyan. There's this little kid with a chubby face. President Xi touched his face. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake, as we're at Dujiangyan Exhibition Gallery, where the collections about fighting the disaster and restoring the city were displayed. The photos immediately bring back strong memories of 2008. We were distributing supplies at Harong Pharmaceutical. We were there before when working as volunteers. While trying to start up my own business, there were times when I was so tired and wanted to give up. But then I think of all the people in the quake-stricken areas and how they rose to the difficulties. They've inspired me to pull myself together and keep going. In 10 years, I've turned from a foreigner to a local in Dujiangyan. I've taken root here. I got married and settled down with my own business and family here. This is a decade of growth and harvest. I came here as a volunteer for disaster relief. Then I stayed and fell in love with Dujiangyan. I think, for me, I've gained and grown a lot. Ten years after the earthquake, Dujiangyan City experienced a lot of changes. I've also matured. My thoughts have changed, but my identity and aspiration as a volunteer never will. When I chose to stay here, some people misunderstood me, thinking I'm merely a business person staying for money. But it's not the case. I stayed in a time and it was still in heavy shocks. I served as a volunteer. Over the years, the city has been more developed, but I'm still a volunteer, just like I used to be. The year 2008 was a turn in our life, after which we took root and started to grow here. Now 10 years have gone by, and the destructive power of the earthquake finally gave way to a stronger restorative force, which is called kindness and love. Here, life thrives and flourishes because of love and resilience. I'd like to continue volunteering. I'd like more people to join us. Every year, we receive many students. Hopefully, our courses and public welfare events will also help keep alive the volunteering spirit for generations to come.